We now have quite a fun session coming on, and we are going to bring back Ozaro, our marketing lead from earlier. We are going to be having a panel discussion with our KOLs, and we look forward to seeing what they have to say. Ozaro, over to you for the panel discussion.
All right, thanks, Doug. Happy to be back here again. Yes, so we will be having a panel discussion shortly. So I'll introduce our guests. Do we have Babs online? Emmanuel Babalola. Yeah, we have him online yet?
Yeah. Hi, guys. Can you hear me? Pleased to be here.
Welcome, Babs. Do we have Adedeji Owonibi?
Yeah, great. Owonibi,
Hi.
great.
Yeah,
great. Great to be here. Great to be here.
All right, cool. Hi. Do we have Roslyn here? Roslyn? All right. Yeah. Okay.
Hi.
Welcome, Roslyn.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so quick introductions. Babs is director of P2P and payment channels for Binance Africa. It's popularly called Babs in the community. We also have Adedeji, who is the founder CEO of Convexity, and then Roslyn, who is the lead research analyst, Nile Capital. You want to say hi to the community, everyone? Babs, Roslyn, Deji.
Yeah, hi. Looking forward to a great conversation today.
Cool. All right. I mean, so the idea of this discussion today is to basically just, have some discussion around African blockchain startups and how they can help redefine the Web3 space in Africa today and in the future, as well as promote the adoption of blockchain technology across different sectors within the African continent, right? There's been a lot, of startups in the Web3 space, but we want to just talk around what impact these guys can have within the African space. What value can we derive from them? How do we go about extracting those value? What are the overarching problems that this space is having, and how can we solve them and optimize this space? I'll be starting with Roslyn, right? Roslyn, in many African countries today, you would see that internet penetration is still relatively low, and connectivity can be really unreliable, right? I mean, even on this call today, I've had to switch networks 2-3 times on this call today. And so my question then would be, what do you suggest blockchain startups do to address this infrastructural gap and be able to make these solutions that accessible to a broader population? Like, how can they circumvent this challenge in Africa today?
All right, so I'd like to propose, first of all, 2 ways in which this solution can be examined. So the first is actually building offline applications or offline on-ramps that do not require internet to begin with. And it has been implemented by different projects and different platforms that leverage USSD technology. So that's basically where anybody with a feature phone can access a specific code, and they don't need to be online to perform certain functions like start creating an account, loading their wallet, and sending money wherever they want to do that, or however they want to do that. And they can have all the benefits of the blockchain technology wherever they are, right? So the second avenue, definitely long-term, is the need to partner with internet service providers and government to create funds or projects that actually make internet either accessible or cheaper in the long term, because we do need to profit and we need to benefit from actually having these internet rails for business, for trade, for communication, and it's an end-to-end thing. So those are my thoughts in terms of creating the solution for that problem.
Super, man. Just to summarize your thoughts, there's the side of building offline solutions, right? As simple as USSD, right? And then partnerships with government agencies, institutions who are able to provide quality network solutions, and that's more in the medium to long term. Thank you so much, Roslyn. Deji, I just want to find out. So, blockchain tech projects require collaboration with other stakeholders, right? Which is what Roslyn is even talking about right now, like government agencies, traditional institutions, and local communities. From your experience, how can startups navigate these partnerships effectively to drive adoption? How do they go about navigating the myriads and vicissitudes that exist in setting up these partnerships and ensuring those partnerships yield results? How do they go about that?
Okay, thank you very much, Saro. For me, I think for any startup, what they should do is to join communities where together the community can push their voices, to where it should be. So if you take, for example, there was a time where just simply having Binance wallet on your phone is a problem with law enforcement, for example. And so for us, that is what we think have to change. And we didn't just lie low. We decided to take it up. I think we worked with Babs here. We're all over, trying to educate them to say, look, this has nothing to do with criminality. This has nothing to do with Yahoo or whatever you say. It's the new money in town. And the young people are taking it up, of course, to understand it. So we think for our own side, the law enforcement need to understand, the regulators need to understand it. And we had to do a kind of a pro bono training for these law enforcement agencies across different states in Nigeria, across different zones. And that also expanded for us to get into central bank to say, okay, you need to make some intelligent regulation, for example, so that the startups can key in, easily, as against just, blacklisting the whole sector without also bringing out a rules and regulation that you expected people to follow. So they listen, and I think now we're training them. Every year we have 2 types of training for the central bank. So the whole notion is changing. But for startups, they need to join communities like ours to make sure that we're able to educate them, to be able to help them to navigate. If you take, for example, there was a startup that was building a Web3 solution, and when he took his company name to company house to register it, and they said anything blockchain is not registrable. So for me, it makes no sense. It looks like they don't understand what is happening, and we have to take it up on their behalf. And it went straight up to the presidency, and the company registrar was called to make sure he registered it that day. So it's something like that, a kind of community that these startups have to be able to, interact with, and of course be guided for regulators. We're talking with SEC, we're talking with a lot of them. So maybe on individual basis, it will be maybe difficult for them to penetrate these agencies. But again, working in a community where myself, we're in that community, Babs here, they're all part of that community. We understand this engagement with regulators, for example. For example, just 3 days ago, I received a call from the director financial intelligence unit to say, hey, we are getting concerned because Nigeria is now on the FATF gray list, and we think cryptocurrencies is contributing to that. What do you think as an industry player? What do you think we should do? So because we are talking with them, we can be able to guide the new startups to know how they can navigate this regulation.
Beautiful, beautiful. So basically just ensuring that they're a part of a community, and education also plays a key role in managing some of the expectations on the side of the government side, right? Educating them, letting them know what this is and all of that. Superb, superb. Babs, you would see that access to funding is a critical factor for success of startups. In your opinion, what opportunities and challenges do African blockchain startups face when seeking investment? And how can they attract more local and international investors? Because you would see that it looks like, the core fintechs seem to have some good fundings going there and all that, right? And so, but how do these guys, building up within Web3, how do they position themselves to get fundings from local and international investors? Babs?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. There was some drop off on your side.
Oh, okay. Is it clear now? Is it okay now? The network issues we are talking about in Africa. Is it okay now? Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, Babs, can you hear me?
Yes,
I can hear it clearly. I think it has to do with Babs, I guess.
Oh, okay, so not mine this time. Okay, Babs, are you good now? Just confirm that you can hear me. Oh, okay. I think I'll move to, let me move to Roslyn, and I'll come back to Babs, right? So Roslyn, regulation and policy significantly impact the growth of blockchain startups, right? What would you say you see as the current regulatory landscape for blockchain in Africa? And what changes do you think are needed to support indigenous startups? Where do you think we are regulatory wise, and what are the changes that you think are needed to support the startups a little more?
All right. So we have three phases in terms of the regulatory landscape in regard to blockchain and crypto startups in Africa. The first phase has been, unfortunately, the bans and the gray areas where countries definitely restrict or limit how much crypto companies can operate or get licenses on the continent. And that has been, a definitely challenging space to have, and definitely some presenting now the second opportunity or the second stage that I see, whereby we have quite a number of collaborations going on in Kenya, in Nigeria, in South Africa, definitely among the leading countries. And what we're seeing is more of a sandbox approach, whereby you have industry players contributing their data, their lessons, educating regulators, because one of the things that is a huge gap, especially in terms of working with regulators, has been just educating them. So you find that if we expect regulators to come up with guidelines that are favorable or ideal for the crypto industry, yet their capacity has not been built, on one hand, it's unfair to them, because we can't just expect that because they have, say, financial service financial industry regulations or company regulations, that they'll just come up with specific regulations for this new industry. So there's a lot of regulator education that needs to happen, and some of these forums are ongoing. They are quite tedious, to be honest, because you're bringing the union between tech, finance, and borderlessness to a regulator that is used to traditional forms of regulating these three industries quite separately. So in bringing them together as the industry, we actually need to be quite patient and quite as simple as possible in terms of how we bring regulators on board. And this has to go on with a multi-year approach in terms of breaking down what are some of the short-term wins that we can have. So one good example is having easier registration for blockchain and crypto companies. Just as Deji had mentioned earlier, that a company having the name blockchain in its identity should not ban it from registration, for example. A company having crypto in its identification should not be blacklisted, for example. So a quick win in the short term, let's say 1 year, 2 years, should be that if this particular service is a crypto exchange, a virtual asset service provider, it should have at least that registration in the National Registry of Companies, and it should be able also to have banking services in its operation as well. The third thing is also having these companies get local presence and local identification, so that people can actually go to these services and have contact people in case they have issues with their accounts or issues with their registration and so on and so forth. So having a local presence is the first win in the short term. Then the second win in the medium to the long term is having reporting frameworks, reporting mechanisms to just report transactions, to report volume, so that we don't end up with so much misinformation. That has been another challenge, even bringing on board to regulators, because if we say, for example, Kenya is doing X volume per week or X volume per month or X volume per year, and then you have different sources, then who is the reliable source, right? So we cannot have all these synchronicities coming together unless we have the first rails of registration, banking, local presence in the first place. So with regulator education, and that also looking into the future of this, is that we need a lot more collaboration, a lot more learning, a lot more openness, just to build these relationships, because regulation will not suddenly and magically come to work for the crypto industry. So there's a lot of work to go into that, and it's one of the areas I am taking up in terms of just building up toward understanding what we need to do, and supporting all the efforts that are actively going into regulator education and also industry support.
Superb. I mean, one thing I
Yeah.
see that is recurrent across board is this need for education, at all levels, right? Users, regulators, there has to be that constant education going continuously. Thank you, Rosalind. Babs, are you back? Are you good now? Could you just test?
Yeah, I hope so.
No, trust me, you're fine. So I was asking you initially that access to funding is a critical factor for the success of startups. In your opinion, what opportunities and challenges do the African blockchain startups face when seeking investment, and how can they attract small local and international investors? How can they position themselves to get better funding from local and international investors?
Yeah, just to confirm if you can hear me. All good now?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me, Babs?
Definitely, the digital currency ecosystem has presented a lot of opportunities for young Africans. Africa has the most profound use cases for crypto, as they would always say. So the industry is growing rapidly, and we are literally still early adopters, right? And several funds today have dedicated crypto funds, right? Within their strategy. So there is certainly a lot of opportunities. However, obviously there are challenges with the bear market right now. So it's a lot more difficult to raise money in this kind of environment. Several companies that are failing, and a bunch of things. So the sentiment, even from the investor perspective, isn't very positive. So a lot of investors now are more conservative, than they would, than they were before. However, there are still several strategies to still ensure that people still are able to raise money. First of all, even determining what kind of funding strategy you want to use, whether you want to self fund, crowd fund, go via the angel route or VC route, what's depending on the stage you're in and your strategy it's quite key, as a startup founder, because these are the decisions you need to make to take your company to the next level. Unfortunately, crypto itself provides an opportunity, for all players to access finance, in the sense of decentralized fundraising via ICOs, IEOs, IDOs. There are a bunch of ways. Even Binance started as an ICO. So it's very key that Africans understand this technology and the opportunities it brings. But key things you have to do to even be able to raise, whether you want to come, on a launch pad, or you want to, raise money from an investor, demonstrating strong vision, demonstrating that you understand your business and you understand, your unique value proposition, is quite key, right? And that's why a lot of companies don't raise money because they don't even have a proper business plan. So these are things that affect your chances to attract investors. And of course, you have to have a strong team. There are different meanings to strong team. It could be background, it could be experience, education, and a bunch of stuff. So while there are many factors that affect this, the best you can do is ensure you position yourself properly, and also execute a proper strategy that works for you.
Thank you so much, Babs. What I picked out from there is the fact that you need to do some house cleaning yourself, do some, work internally in terms of working out your own strategy, in terms of ensuring that you have a plan, like a watertight plan that is sellable, right? And if you don't have some of those things, then it makes it difficult for you to even get a leg in the room. And even when you do, you won't be able to, cut it at that point, right? Deji, I want to ask Deji, if you could provide some success stories and case studies of blockchain projects that have positively impacted undeserved or marginalized communities in Africa, and how can this success be replicated? Because the what do we call it right now? The underserved, right? So, do we have success stories to show that we're actually building a population in Africa? Do we have some of those stories across Africa?
Yeah, thank you, Osaro. I think we do. I think not too far too. I would say there's one that we built out, and as a matter of fact, we were invited by BlackRock some week or two ago to actually show that, where they were trying to see if there's going to be a synergy with Cycle to reach more underserved. But we responded to that, based on the fact that we believe that blockchain can engender transparency, blockchain can reach the underserved, and blockchain can, widen up the whole. Close the gap between the rich and the poor, especially when it comes to humanitarian aid transfer to the vulnerable in different communities. And we decided we have to build out something, that has to do with this. And of course, we did that in response to a newspaper publication that said, instead of sending your money to Africa, you better burn it. And it's trying to just explain about corruption, about not getting to the last mile, but being able to bridge that. We build out a solution on that engender that and serious aid transfer. And now donors are sending their donation into Africa now with the possibility to actually monitor that. We have a case going on in Makoko in Lagos, the floating community. We have some, IDP camps where they're using that. The donor is reaching out to them via vaccines through our solution and the likes. And so that's a cash out that they can do at the end of the time. I'm saying that the time is well spent. But we have a lot of use cases. We have another one where, airlines will not cancel your ticket and now make you write emails for months without getting that across. And also we build out Europay to make sure that we bridge that gap, for making sure that this reach the traveling populace. So a lot of use cases that are success stories in bringing financial inclusion, and some other things are actually being built on the continent.
All right, thank you, Deji. Thank you, Deji. Yeah, there are a lot of use cases here that are relevant to the underserved population. My last question goes to Babs, and then we'll wrap this up. Babs, how do you think blockchain startups can engage with local talents and provide opportunities for developers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Africa to contribute to the Web3 ecosystem? How can they engage local talents? How can they get in the right hands to come help them build, and all of that? So what do you think?
Yeah. First of all, like 40% of Africa are under the age of 15, and around 70% thereabout are under the age of 30. So Africa represents the largest continent, the youngest continent in the world, basically. And right now we are witnessing one of the largest wealth transfer in history, as highlighted by Deji. And one of the things you begin to see is how, this young population can, you take advantage of the opportunity that blockchain and cryptocurrency has presented to the continent. Cryptocurrency is not a get-rich-quick scheme, but with the right knowledge and the right applications of that knowledge, you can begin to. There are people that play games and earn, right? There are several use cases that allow people even without capital, because to trade you need capital, but there are several things you can do in DeFi that you don't even need capital to also earn. We've seen students in school earn a living to pay their fees and to eat food in school just from the activities they do within crypto. So it is very critical that we invest in this talent. Even at Binance, it's something we've done over the years. We've organized hackathons, done investment funds for Africa, and a bunch of stuff, right? What startups need to do and to continue to do is equipping these young people. Our largest export as a nation, as a continent, can be human resources, right? And that's why there is the need to continue to train and retrain and re-equip as much as we can. This is a larger problem. There are problems of employability and underemployment and a bunch of stuff, right? Which after school people still have to go through courses and a bunch of stuff to be able to compete in the global job market. So there is a key gap within Africa's human resource that we need to tap from. So that's one key thing we can do. And of course, there are other opportunities around innovation in crypto. There are several use cases for crypto that apply in Africa. Use cases around remittances, use cases around cross-border payment, and a bunch of stuff. there are entrepreneurs that are beginning to take advantage of these things and create tools that people would use. And once you can create enough value, people would come and use your platform, and from there you make revenue, and from there you can become the next unicorn. So there are definitely a lot of use cases in crypto that you can begin to join up with a co-founder or something and start. And the space is, I think the future is quite bright for the industry on the continent. So yeah, that's kind of like pretty much my 1 cent to that question.
Beautiful, superb. I mean, just listening to the conversation and picking your thoughts. One thing that things that I could pick right now is the fact that there's still the need for constant education within the space. There's the need for community. The community thing cannot be overemphasized. We need to be together, stay together, so we can grow together. We need to keep engaging with regulators from the point of educating them and basically just ensuring that we are hearing them also, but we are trying to align thoughts and strategies together, educating them, and we need to also ensure that we're looking internally to ensure that we are even making sure that internally we are also okay in terms of our strategies, our thoughts, our plans. They're also watertight. So the end that when we come out to investors, they don't see loopholes, unnecessary loopholes that makes them back out from even investing. And what we also said is the fact that the future in Africa for Web3 is immense. We've not even scratched it yet. There's a lot more we can do in Africa. Thank you to these panelists. Thank you, Deji. Thank you, Bart. Thank you, Roslyn. You want to give your final words to the community, starting with Deji?
Yes, thank you very much. I'll just say let's keep building, let's keep hoping, and let's keep doing it right.
Thank you, Deji. Bart?
Yeah, so Africa has the most profound use cases for crypto. And like it's high time we take our place on the global roadmap for innovation in the industry.
And yes, we will. Not last but not the least, Roslyn.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share thoughts and to be part of this panel. I'll close it with saying, let's build it together, not alone. Only together can we thrive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there you have it from our panelists. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm handing over to Douglas.